The chamber of Vared Accord had never been silent for this long. Ambassador Thesic of the Avoral cluster stood frozen at the podium, his 4 eyes locked on the view screen above the council ring. Outside the station, space itself seemed to fold, not with the shimmer of a hyperlane gate, but with something colder, heavier, like the void itself was holding its breath. 1,000 ships had appeared in the space of a single heartbeat, not scattered, not drifting, arranged in formation so exact it looked less like a fleet, and more like a single machine breathing in unison. "Identify them," rasped Councillor Drenna Uth, gripping the edge of her seat with claws that had not shaken in 40 years of service. "Identify them now," the comms officer's voice cracked. "Transponder signal confirms. Sol Federation. Designation, Earth." The word landed like a blade. For 11 years, Earth's seat at the Vared Accord had sat empty. 11 years of missed summits, ignored invitations, silence where diplomacy should have been. The other species had stopped waiting. They had stopped caring. They had quietly begun to plan around humanity's absence. And some had begun to plan against it. Now humanity had returned, not with an ambassador, not with an apology, with 1,000 warships parked at the doorstep of the single most powerful council in known space. And no one, not even the sharpest minds in the Accord, understood why. But none of this had begun with warships. 3 days earlier, Commander Alia Reyes stood in the observation bay of the SS Kestrel Dawn, watching Earth shrink behind her, a blue marble swallowed by black. She hadn't slept in 30 hours. None of the bridge crew had. "Confirmed," said her second, Lieutenant Marcus Oyaleran, reading from a data slate with hands that wouldn't quite stop trembling. "The signal's real. It's not a hoax. It's not corrupted data. It's from the Threll listening post on the edge of the Accord's border." "Say it again," Alia said quietly. "All of it." Marcus swallowed. The Threll intercepted internal Accord communications. "There's a faction, the Karsu Combine, that's been quietly building a private fleet outside Accord oversight. Official records call it a border patrol expansion. It's not. It's an invasion force. Target 3 unaligned systems. All 3 have populations. 2 of them are inhabited by species who've never even made first contact with anyone. They don't have shields. They don't have weapons. They have farms." Alia's jaw tightened. "And the Accord?" Has known for 6 months. They've done nothing because intervening would violate the Combine's sovereignty rights under Accord law. And no single member species is willing to risk war over species that aren't even members. The silence in the room was heavier than the black outside the viewport. "They're going to let it happen," Alia said. "They're going to let it happen," Marcus confirmed. Everything changed in the next few seconds. Alia turned from the window. "Get me every capital ship we have. Everyone. I don't care if it's still in dry dock. Get it moving. Commander, that's..." Marcus stopped himself, recalculating the number in his head. "That's the entire mobile fleet. That's everything Earth has. Yes, if we're wrong about this, if this is a trap, we lose everything. Our entire defense." Alia's eyes didn't leave his, "And if we're right and we do nothing, then 11 years of silence from every summit, every council, every plea for help we ignored because we were licking our wounds after the Ashfall War. All of that becomes the reason a defenseless species dies burning. I won't carry that." She keyed the fleet-wide channel. "This is Commander Reyes. All Federation ships, converge on Sol Staging Point Bravo. We move in 6 hours. Full combat readiness. This is not a drill." The truth stunned every officer listening. Earth had not sent a single delegate to a single galactic meeting in over a decade. Not out of arrogance, not out of pride, but because the Ashfall War had gutted the Federation down to its bones. Every ship, every soldier, every credit had gone into rebuilding in silence. No one outside Sol knew how close humanity had come to extinction. No one had asked. And humanity had let them believe whatever story they wanted, because admitting weakness to a galaxy that respected only strength would have been a death sentence. But the silence had a cost the Accord never saw coming. While the galaxy assumed Earth was sulking, humanity was building. Ambassador Thesic had not wanted this assignment. Diplomatic liaison to a species that didn't show up was, by definition, the emptiest post in the Accord. He had spent 11 years drafting reports that no one read about a nation that sent no replies. Now he stood on the observation deck of the Accord station, watching that same nation's fleet hold position, with an eerie, silent discipline no Accord fleet had ever managed. And he understood, with sudden and complete clarity, that he had misjudged everything. "Ambassador." A young aide approached, her voice unsteady. "The human flagship is hailing us." Nobody in the chamber knew what the humans wanted. The view screen resolved. Not an ambassador, not a diplomat in ceremonial dress. A woman in a plain gray uniform, tired lines carved beneath her eyes, standing on a bridge that looked built for war, not for show. "This is Commander Alia Reyes, Sol Federation Defense Fleet," she said. Her voice was flat, controlled, exhausted. "I am not here to negotiate Earth's return to this council. I am here because 3 unaligned systems are about to be burned off the star charts by the Karsu Combine. And this council has known for 6 months and done nothing." Councillor Drenna Youth rose sharply. "That matter falls under Accord sovereignty law. It is not open for—" "I'm not asking permission," Alia cut in. "I'm informing you. In 4 hours, my fleet moves to intercept the Combine's invasion force. You can help. You can stay out of the way. Or you can try to stop us. And I promise you, that would be the single worst decision this council has made in its history." The council had made a terrible mistake once already, and now they had to decide if they'd make a second one. Thesic watched the room fracture into arguing voices, and in the chaos, he found himself doing something he never expected. Agreeing, silently, with the humans. The battle at the edge of the Yssen Verge was not what the Combine expected. Their fleet, 60 warships strong, had been built for one purpose: crushing unarmed colonies before anyone could object. They were not built to fight a peer. They had never needed to be. When the Federation fleet dropped out of hyperlane, 30 seconds ahead of the Combine's strike window, the Combine's flag officer, General Kova Threll, of a house, unrelated to the listening post that had first caught the signal, laughed at the sensor readout. 1,000 ships, he said to his bridge crew. And only 6 devours. They think numbers alone win wars. That wasn't even the strangest part. The human ships didn't charge. They didn't posture. They fanned out in a formation Kova's tacticians had never catalogued. Patient, deliberate, closing every escape vector before firing a single shot. "They're not trying to destroy us," his tactical officer said, voice rising in alarm. "They're trying to contain us." Kova gave the order to fire anyway. What followed was fast, brutal, and almost silent. Precision strikes disabling engines and weapons rather than hulls. Boarding parties moving with a discipline that unsettled even Kova's most hardened officers. Within 40 minutes, the Combine fleet was dead in space, its crews alive, its commanders in custody, and not one of the 3 colonies below had suffered a single casualty. Everyone expected Earth to celebrate. What happened next surprised them all. Commander Reyes did not claim the victory as a Federation triumph. She turned command of the captured fleet and its officers directly over to the Accord, along with every recording of the Combine's invasion plans, and sent a single message to the Council. "We didn't do this for glory. We did this because 11 years ago, we learned what it feels like to have no one come when you're dying. We weren't willing to be the reason someone else learned that lesson too. Do with the evidence what you will. We're going home." The chamber was silent again, but it was a different silence now. Ambassador Thesic stood, and for the first time in 11 years, he addressed the empty seat reserved for Earth. Not empty anymore, its holo plaque finally reactivated. "Draft a formal invitation," he said. "Not for a colony, not for a client species, for a founding voice on this council. Immediately." Councillor Drenna Youth studied the tactical footage still looping on the main screen. The Federation fleet, disciplined, restrained, terrifyingly capable, and used with more mercy than the Accord's own laws had shown. 11 years of silence, she murmured, and they didn't come back angry, they came back responsible. That was the detail no one in the chamber would forget. 3 weeks later, Alia Reyes stood once more at the viewport of the Kestrel Dawn, watching Earth grow larger instead of smaller. Marcus stood beside her, quieter than usual. "The Accord approved it," he said. "Full founding member status. Restored, effective immediately." Alia didn't smile, not exactly. But something in her shoulders finally loosened, 11 years of carried weight easing by a fraction. "We didn't do it for a seat at their table," she said. "I know," Marcus said. "That's probably why they gave you one." Below them, Earth turned slowly in the dark, patient and unshaken, the way it had always been. Not because it was the loudest voice in the galaxy, but because when it finally chose to speak, it spoke with 1,000 warships, and the restraint to use none of them more than it had to. And for the first time in 11 years, the galaxy understood exactly why Earth had been silent, and exactly why it would never have to explain itself again.